Just to get started, when we were designing the agenda for the day here, we wanted to invite people who were going to be able to talk about the barriers to scaling across three different horizons. So you've heard this morning from corporate partnerships, and we're going to hear from thought leaders around how do you take the barriers away to allow innovations that exist now to scale. And we're going to talk about that in terms of the policy, which is coming up after this, and also in terms of finance and investment. But I suppose to steal a phrase from Senator Hackett, hearing from companies whose shoulder is at the wheel now, a sustainability business that is active in multiple global markets and working with those problem holders will bring a new insight, will bring that reality of that customer experience on how the problem is being, as was manifested in those different markets. So we've invited David Lynch, who's the CEO and co-founder of Clear, to talk about what is an exceptionally boring but necessary business, which is the management of data in water utilities around their use of
Not
governance.
boring at all.
Boring, no, boring is good. Ireland is great, and Mark Crystal will back me up on this. Boring business is the backbone of the Irish economy, right? I'll fight anyone who says differently. Tell us a little bit about what Clear does.
Yeah, so we were born here in Ireland, both physically and as a company, and our background was really a problem that many companies face, not just limited to water, which is there's a lot of silos, both from people and in the data sense, and there's a little bit of a disconnect of the core business of what our utilities or what our water operators are doing, which is they're there to provide safe and secure water services. And that sometimes get a little bit lost in the construct of becoming asset managers and becoming customer service orientated. And that core mission can get a little bit lost. So in essence, our platform that we start off in water utilities is to really allow this work to come together, allow this data to come together and allow collaboration so that we're talking about the same thing when we're talking about water. Water is the #1 multiplier of climate change. It is the thing that is felt in the field. I work predominantly in the US market, and it's a bipartisan issue. I had dinner with the former head of the EPA, and he said that one of the best presidents he's been under was President Trump, and I couldn't believe it. He said, well, on the drinking water side, it's not good to poison people, and it's not a good political message. So it is, whether it's the water coming out of your faucet, or I'm American already, your tap, or water rising up in front of your house, or no water there, or PFAS or emerging chemicals and contaminants coming out. This is becoming a more acute problem, and basically we are there to be the infrastructure to allow those problems to be solved.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit, because I know you're active in the US and that's where you're based, but you've got operations in Australia and I think in Canada as well. Are you seeing differences in the urgency with business and I suppose from the regulatory side are thinking about these issues, or particularly around water, but I suppose more broadly the climate issue?
Yeah, I suppose in water, the political boundaries are pretty irrelevant. And that might sound like a bit of a strange thing because, where we start a lot with the regulation. Like, what does the regulation tell us to do? But that's just the frame of a picture, to sort of say, okay, we have to collect this information, but, at the end of the day, how do we operate our water utilities cost effectively? How do we place value on this? I'm not being hunted out of here, but how do we place value on it? And how do we have a water utility in 2050? Those politics, they don't align to political boundaries. So people in New Mexico and people in Mexico are having, and at some points coming to arms together, irrespective, and it's the same in Syria and southern Turkey, because it's really about the have and the have-nots. Those questions basically could become more acute where there's more necessity. So I would say when we look at the boundaries, you look at where the challenges are. So if you look at Australia, parts of Australia that have issues around the flooding, but also around water resources, it's either there a lot or it's not there at all. So in Queensland, they'd prolonged periods of drought followed by insane floods that are these once in 100-year events, happen maybe once every 10 or 15 years now. We're seeing Australia working close with provinces like Nevada, California, and areas that are going through water scarcity. So what we're seeing is a traditional construct of like this state and that state. They're really being broken down when it comes to water.
Okay. You mentioned something interesting there, and which is around value, and you kind of looked a little bit shifty in terms of like helping utilities maybe understand the value of the assets that they have. And it's something that, it strikes me as very similar to Tom's message earlier, which is you have this land bank, it's a natural resource, it is generating value. Maybe it should be shared between the semi-state, the corporate, and the public. But what kind of value are you talking about bringing to utility companies beyond just the boring data governance piece?
Well, I hope you're not getting me into trouble, because I was talking about the value of water as well, like, which is, I know, a contentious issue here. But that's at the offset. The fundamental economic equation of water is imbalanced everywhere, and that does need to be discussed. In terms of the value in the utility, like, it's such a funny business, because your price that you sell your product is set by a regulator. You are also mandated to get the people to use less of your products, but then also driving down the price. So they operate in this very weird environment where they do effective demand management and try and drive more value on that side. Then they get less money, but then the assets are more difficult to manage. In terms of like the value for the organization, like, it is the same things that we're seeing. Like, we have this grey tsunami in water that we're calling, where it is a very traditional workforce. It's also from particular industries. So like in America, there's a lot of former military in there, and now we've got a next generation of workforce coming in, and they don't really want to use filing cabinets. They don't want to use what digital transformation was perceived as just putting the paper thing into Excel. Like, it's a little bit more than that. So really, they're asking the question of like, how do I actually deliver this safe and secure water service? And economic prosperity is based a lot on that. The security and the health of your community is based on that. So those questions can't even begin to be addressed before you actually are making it based off data. And it's a very contentious issue. It's a human right. So we need to be able to bring this information together, and that's basically what we do.
So communicating this to their stakeholders, exactly how they're helping, is an important part of that, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it is a very, very difficult discussion to have. But the more we talk about it, the more we open up and see what this is, the business that water is about. I think is going to drive that discussion more.
You're a sustainability business. At a time when it's never been better to be a sustainability business. You've raised $20 million or thereabouts in the lifetime of the business, including $16 million earlier this year from Insight Ventures. Mm-hmm. What's it like being a sustainability business backed by venture at the moment? What's the reporting and the measurement and the metrics and the board conversations like?
Yeah, so I think there has been a paradigm shift. My co-founder, who's unfortunately not here today, Elaine, before this used to say, people used to come to say, I want to be, you're a woman in business, I want to talk to you. And it's like, I'm a business person that's a woman. And I think that's sort of very applicable to the sustainability piece as well. It's moved on from being you're a sustainable business to, it's just, we're all doing that. Like, it is just par for the course. So like when we went through the Insight, investment round, there is, your straight away sustainability audit. We are measured at board level on our ESG goals. We are reporting on a quarterly basis. We are, as part of the diligence process, we have our standard Big Four financial audit. We had our legal audit, and we had a full ESG audit from a legal firm as well. So it is becoming, in that side of it, it is becoming very much part of the business. But to my point, when I ask, or when people ask, we've got a lot of inbound because there's not many or very few water companies that have done what we've done. They're like, why are you moving into water now, or are you not? It's like, no, this is a good business. We're in the business of making money, and this is where money is made. Mm. So they haven't formed a view per se on we're going after this. We're now green. It's just that's the future. And VC, I think, in particularly in America, and even in earlier stage angel investors, particularly in the US market, are great bellwethers for this, because they invest in things that make absolutely no sense. for better or for very often worse. But in this context, the money is coming, and it's coming from a perspective of this just makes good business sense. It's not an ethical thing that we have to do, which is all, as the former speakers say, it's great, but it's just better for business to do it this way.
Okay. Do you see that there's going to be a tension at some point from your board where there is a drive for growth and profitability versus the needs of the customers to continue to be, doing good, transparent business in their communities? Or do you think that VCs and investment funds, that the venture community are going to start shifting their perspectives?
I just think this is just a future business. There was, I think it was Mark Andreessen said, software is eating the world, or every business is going to be a software business. Like the phraseology I'm hearing out in the trenches when it comes to investors is every business is a sustainability business now. So if you're not, you're dead. Like if you're not there, you're not going to be here in 20 years. So this is like, even last week I was in Washington, and Vice President Harris announced a new security task force at the presidential level about international water security. This is not just in VC levels. This is at like the Pentagon. This is at like national security discussions forums. Sustainability, climate change. It is a bipartisan issue, and it's not just at the top levels of government, but also like again, and climate change is somewhat contentious in some of the places we work in, but the operators in the field, like it is number one threat there. It is the thing, and it's also number one opportunity. So this is just the way the world is going. So I think that when it comes to the profitability side of it, of course they're in there to make money. And I was actually thinking Bord na Móna have a great business helping a few startups out now in this new world of, they're discovering this word profit, which is the old world was growth at all costs and just spend your way out of everything. So if you want to consult on that, that'd be a great idea for some of the Silicon Valley colleagues out there. But there is this new concept that has been there in the last 10 years of operating costs and profit and these traditional things. So they are coming back, but they are still forming. These funds are 10 years, they're longer term views. This is the way business is going. And being sustainable is the way of the future. And one last point, I'll talk about it from our customers' perspective. It's about the reimagining of it. Let's like in our product, we talk in the area of wastewater. Those words are being changed to be, resource water, resource recovery. So when one of our customers in Australia, it's not just about it impacts the bottom line. They're moving from a $10 million cost to a $30 million revenue generation line. These are huge numbers that they're moving in what was originally wastewater, pumping out P and N and these really good nutrients, as well as some metals in there, and actually reselling that, and particularly at the price of fertilizer at the moment, is this stuff becomes really really accessible. But it's also about food security. Our customers are ringing up, like trying to guarantee the supply of their NMP, and it's not there. They can't I'll give you the price, but I can't guarantee it'll be there in 6 months. So this is just about the security of your business. This is about the profitability of your business. So I think it has permeated so many aspects. It's not someone in the fourth floor's office to let's make sure we do the sustainability thing. It is everywhere now.
Yeah. As an aside, I love the idea of Bord na Móna in Silicon Valley teaching VCs how to think about profit. We could introduce Tom as the CEO of the Midland's first unicorn. It's a $1 billion business. You're here in Ireland as part of a staff retreat. You said you're a scaling company at this stage, up to 55 now, I think, at this stage.
55, yeah.
Congratulations. 45 of those team members have never been to Ireland before, I think you were saying. So it's a bit of a departure for them. It's raining in June. It's confusing to people.
We had the Tato King trade-off yesterday, yeah.
Just talk quickly about talent, and this idea of young graduates wanting to work for impact-focused, mission-led companies, shoulder to the wheel, again, to use that phrase. How have you found that recruitment at the moment?
Yeah, so there's a couple of macro things that are moving here. There's hiring freezes across the board now in the tech side of things. So your FANGs, I'm getting into the lingo, but your Facebooks, your Apples, there's hiring freezes on those side. There's going to be a slowdown in the economy. So that is coming anyway. You know, and it's going to be acute by all indicators. Notwithstanding that, obviously, then with the remote work and tech-forward companies tend to be a little bit more open to remote work. But that said, like the mission-driven part and post-pandemic, it's been the convergence of a lot of these things has become really important. You know, we've been afforded this time at home with family, with a different way of working, and a lot of people have asked the question of what in the name of God am I doing all of this for? And a lot of, you know, do you really want your CEO, sitting up in front of the Senate about like rigging elections or, you know, whatever it may be? Do you really want to work there? So I think the next generation workforce, and that isn't limited by age, I'll be very, very clear. You know, this is extending across a multi-generational side of things. So we are finding, and like in terms of tangible metrics, you know, we use like some software internally to manage our applicant tracking, and they benchmark you against different stages of companies. So since the seed level, like both through our LinkedIn integrations with this system, we're actually able to hit metrics exceeding a Series D level company. And what does Series D mean? It's basically before you IPO. So you're at around about $50-100 million revenue company. You're at about $1 billion, couple of $1 billion valuation. And to be able to, with actual $0 investment in marketing, you're competing for talent at a level at a company way ahead of you. Yeah. We've had 0 applicants decline an offer letter from us. We have a very, very competitive talent pipeline. So for us, it is just people are actually saying, I want to help solve this problem, and I'm gonna put my talents where my mouth is, and they're doing it, and they're feeling very empowered at a mission they can get behind. So I think the war for talent is maybe entering a little bit of a detente, but I think companies that are very, very binded to an altruistic or a greater than thou mission are going to find it much easier to get that talent in and retain it as well.
Okay, well done on the success so far, and long may it last. There was a whistle-stop tour, I suppose, of the success of this, you know, Irish company scaling and making a real difference globally. So best of luck to David, and thanks very much.
Thank you very much.